Welcome everyone to Everyday Passions, the show where my guests share one of their passions and how they've used that passion to influence or impact the lives of others. My special guest today is John D. Allen. John hails from just outside of London, Ontario in Canada. Welcome, John, to the show, and a special welcome to you for being my very first male guest.
Thanks, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I welcome
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to share with your guests.
Thank you so much. Before we begin, let me go ahead and just share a little bit about who I am to those of you who do not know me. I am Yvonne A. Jones, the Client Relations Specialist and Personal Business Coach, and I work with leaders and decision makers who want to grow their business by creating memorable moments and building profitable client relationships. Now, I also have who I call love clients. They're professionals and highly motivated women like myself who are 50 and wiser, whom I help to grow their business from passion to profit. Welcome everyone, you our viewers and our listeners to the show. So let me introduce John D. Allen to you. John is a business development specialist, and he shares that he believes in God first, family, and business in that order. He's not religious, but he does believe in a higher power who puts us all here for a purpose. And to be truly living and successful, John believes that you need to be living that higher purpose each and every day. John believes that we should give thanks for everything. And isn't that what you believe too? It's certainly what I believe. So John, let's go ahead and get started. And the first question that I have for you is, please go ahead and share with us one thing that you're truly passionate about.
That passion is living, because December 4th, 2000, I hadn't been paying too much attention to what the big guy, the higher power, the messages he'd been trying to send me. I was a workaholic. I'd work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. And actually my son said to me one time, "Dad, I feel divorced," because he never saw me. I was gone all the time working. December the 4th, 2000, I guess I needed a bigger lesson, because I was given a major brain aneurysm where I had less than a 10% chance to live. And if I did live, the odds were 85% against me having any kind of a normal life. I spent 4.5 weeks after December 4th in intensive care, and then another couple weeks in the hospital. On the way back from the hospital, I was living in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, driving over the South Saskatoon River, I looked up and made the big guy a promise that if he would let me live, I would spend the rest of my life helping small business owners get the most out of their business. Why I made that decision is my beautiful bride at the time had a small health business, like everybody else's. It was up and down like a yo-yo. You couldn't count on the profits. So what I did is I took all my corporate experience and I showed her how to get it so it was on a profitable level on a regular basis. And the other part I believe in, like Yvonne said, is we got to give thanks every day. I say to people, I see my tootsies in the morning when I get out of bed. That's a great accomplishment. You know, when you stop and think about it, we're alive. We're on the right side of the grass. Hope that answers your question.
It does. It certainly does, John. But you know, that event in your life certainly gave you an awareness of where you needed to make changes. But share with us a little bit about that, not necessarily the event, but the impact that it made on you besides the promise that you made on your way home. How else did that really change you as a person and affect those around you?
I went from my 12, 14, 16 hours a day to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week when I went back to my corporate job. And My wife and son couldn't believe it, when I was coming home at 5 o'clock, because they said, something's wrong here. And I wasn't going out the door at night. I wasn't gone on the weekends. The other thing that it taught me was I had the erroneous belief that this company would fall apart if I wasn't there 24/7, being the savior or whatever the heck you want to call me. And life went on without me. That was in one way a blow to my ego, but it was also a big wake-up call that,
Mhm.
I'm just another cog in the wheel. And the only way that I can be somebody and accomplish what I'm here for is to do that which you're, the passion you're given. My passion really wasn't, it was in the security industry. My passion really wasn't there. I'd much rather work with small business owners and everything else. That's where my passion was. And that's where I started doing it part-time. I did it part-time for 7 years. And then I went full-time in 2009 when my wife passed away. And I moved back to Ontario to be closer to my parents, my kids, my grandkids. I guess I wasn't done learning lessons because both my parents died that year. Both my kids moved from Ontario out to Alberta, which basically is 3,000 miles away from here. So now I joke that nobody liked me, I'll move the other way. So now it was time for me to learn how to build a business here in Ontario.
Mhm. That's pretty comprehensive, but you know something, I see that a lot. I saw that when I was in the corporate life. People thought they were indispensable and the company could not function without them. And so they basically ignored their family. And not, I shouldn't say ignore, but they put their family in second place and the job first because they felt that that's where their loyalty, they were earning an income. And so that's where their loyalty should be. Sadly, events showed something simple could happen and suddenly you are no longer valuable to the company and they got rid of you like that. So that was a huge awakening for you. I can understand and appreciate that. So as you progress, as you recovered and you started a different path, the path that took you down the small business path, how has that been different for you? What sort of feeling has that brought for you? How have you been able to impact? I know I'm asking you a lot of questions, but it's all one thing. What sort of impact have you been able to make on individuals as a result of the change that you made?
That's a great question. I've been able to help a lot of businesses. One business, for example, the guy was in the, I guess, human resources. Part of his job, he worked in Windsor, but he dealt with a lot of the big companies out of the US across to Detroit and that. And he was one of the ones, he was a headhunter. He had to find these executive jobs when they were no longer needed by these big corporations. And one of the things he came to me one time and he said, he just got a letter from this company and said they were going to drop him as one of their service providers. And he didn't understand it. So I said, we talked and went through it. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I need you to go back to that company, make an appointment with the VP or the president, whichever one it was, sit down, tell them that, yes, there was a screw up made and you were willing to do whatever it took. And you could offer the company a lot of stuff. He called me that afternoon and said, you're not going to believe this. He walked out with a signed $75,000 contract and the potential of another $75,000 over the same period of the next year because the president or VP really liked what they saw in him. So it's when you do something like that, it's wow. It makes you feel good. It's not about me. It's being able to share what I learned in corporate and be able to pass it on to people. I've also had another lady. She was a graphic artist and what have you. She lives in South Carolina. She'd been a client of mine for 5 or 6 months. She was mumbling and grumbling that things weren't working right. So she had a client call her up and she said, I got to have a meeting with this guy, but I don't really want to talk to him. And we'll talk to him anyways because you really don't know what he's got to say.
Mhm.
I get a phone call about an hour later and she's screaming into the phone. He gave me a $25,000 contract, a $25,000 contract. She called back about 2 hours later. I got another $15,000 contract from another company. So I said, well, you know, for 5 months, was it worth $40,000 in brand new business to you? Well, yeah. And she's since gone on to do a lot more than that. But the big thing was, she didn't see anything happening instantly. Like a lot of people, especially today, if it doesn't happen yesterday, it's not soon enough. All of these things take time. It's like planting a garden. You can't put the seeds in the ground and go dig them up the next day and expect to have the fruit or the vegetables or whatever. They've got to have time to grow. And that's what happens in your business. You've got your planting time. You have to mature it, water it, fertilize it. Then you get the harvest. You don't go from plant to harvest right away. So these are the great things to do to help people on that journey, to watch them grow, to experience growth. Excuse me. They can just go on. And it's really gratifying to me just to watch their growth and to watch how much they blossom. So
Absolutely, sounds good. And what you're saying there, John, really is when you translate that, it's all about building the relationships because relationships take time. And as you said, yes, there are some types of transactions that are really urgently needed. They're urgent. And so they can come to fruition more quickly. But in general, it is going to take time, especially when you're dealing with, sounds like these people were dealing with maybe like a mid-sized organization or a corporation. Is that who those clients were dealing with? Because we know
yes,
those take a little bit more time.
yep, that was who they're dealing with. The other thing that I like to teach people is you don't want to be in the transactional business. Transaction is give me your money, here's your product, or press hard, the third copy is yours. You want to be in the relationship business. And when you're in a relationship business, if something goes wrong, those people aren't quick to drop you. You can have a chance to explain it to them. But if all you're in it for is the money or transactional, people know it and they'll drop you. That's where a lot of businesses, they get a lot of refunds. They get a lot of no repeat customers, clients. That's what happens when you're just in transactional business. When you're in relationship business, that's where people want to continue to do business with you. They know you, like you, and trust you. That is a very big thing in business.
Absolutely. So you've touched on a number of lessons that are there for business owners at whatever level, whether solopreneurs, individuals who may be small business, brick and mortar, or even small business online, or bigger businesses. Those are lessons that they can take away. So let's narrow it down, John. If you had an opportunity to share just 3 points, if you can come up with 3, because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but if you can come up with 3 lessons, 3 points that you'd love for business owners to take away, because I know that's your small business are the people that you want to help. And in this economy, whether it's in Canada or the United States, a lot of them need help because a lot have suffered through the pandemic of the past, what is this, over 18 months. So what would be your message to them? Just a couple of points that you'd like to share.
For your marketing or advertising, your headline has to grab their attention, because if the headline doesn't grab their attention, they're not going to read the rest of it. Once your headline gets their attention, the first sentence or paragraph, depending on what it is, has to make the reader want to continue reading. Then the body of your message has to talk about them, the results they want. People buy transformations. They don't buy coaching. They don't buy any other thing. They buy transformation, what they get from the product. And the last part they need is you have to have a call to action. You have to have an offer on everything you do. Because if you just said, here's this phone, but you don't say, come here to buy it or order it or whatever, all you did was make a statement. So you have to give people a reason. They have to answer the WIIFM. What's in it for me? everybody's favorite radio station. And that's one thing I tell all my clients, whether they're a client or not, what makes you different or unique? Because if you're the same as everybody else, all they have to compare you on is price. You don't want to compete on price, unless you want to be the Walmart of your industry. And if you're the Walmart, somebody can always beat your price. You want to deal on value. People will pay twice the price for 4 times the perceived value. So offer people more value. And the other thing, and I know I've gone over these a couple, but if price is usually 4th or 5th down on people's deal when they go shopping. They want the best value for their money. So I always stress the value.
Excellent point. So let me just quickly do a recap of the ones that I made a quick note of. Your headline must grab attention. So whether it's the headline in your email, headline on your landing page, headline on the sales page, whatever it is, even if you're doing a live streaming, it needs to grab attention. And then you said that the first sentence or the first paragraph should also keep their attention so that they would want to continue reading. Then you mentioned about talk about the customer, not about me. Talk about who you're serving, what's the transformation that they will receive. And something that many times we forget. We must have a call to action on everything, whether it's a blog post, an article, again, whatever, let people know what you want them to do. And remember the favorite radio station. And the final point that I noted here, which is so very important, is don't try to compete on price, compete on value, and deliver value, because people will pay more for value than haggle about the price. Did I get those correctly, John?
That is correct, 100%. Good job.
Yay! All right. So thank you so much for being here today. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so? And I would be happy to go ahead and post that in the chat afterwards.
They can do 2 things. My website is www.allen, A-L-L-E-N, smallbusinesscoaching.com, or they can reach me at allenwwsolutions@gmail.com.
Allen WW Solutions?
Yep, at gmail.com. Stands for
Allen's-
worldwide. Allen
Oh,
WW stands for worldwide.
okay, okay. Okay, so let me just repeat that, make sure I got it correctly. It's allensmallbusiness.com.
No, Allen
It's your
Small
web-
Business Coaching.
Coaching.com. Thank you. And the email is allenwwsolutions@gmail.com.
Correct.
Okay, very good. So I will go ahead and type those in the chat below our interview once we're done streaming here live. So John, I just want to thank you once again, and thank you for being my first male guest. You shared powerful tips, and I love the fact that you stress that we have to have balance. It's not easy, and balance, if you're not balanced properly, you can topple over, but we have to put our priorities right, which you learned the hard way, but thank God you're here today speaking with me. And all of our listeners are able to hear from you as well. So thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for being here today. And if you're watching the replay, please just type in #replay, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye now.